It's Wednesday night, and we're live from Oakdale, Washington, in the Educated Touch studio. Welcome to Ethics Outside the Box, with your host, Nathan Nordstrom. Special guests include you. Here he is, Nathan Nordstrom.
All right, welcome everyone. Today is one of those special days where it is going to be you and me. Didn't have a guest today. I actually had a couple of different thoughts about that. First of all, first thought is one of the biggest challenges about running a weekly show is scheduling the right guest. And there's several people who are excited about this topic in several different ways. But alongside of that, I think people could get a negative image if we talk about this topic today, if I let someone else get into it. So I'm happy to be here with you. We're going to discuss this. We're going to look at this. We're going to connect with this. And if we do this right, then we'll be able to have a lot of fun and connect on a lot of different ways. I'm trying to get my Facebook feed up here so that I can respond to you guys on Facebook who are putting in comments. But it's good to see you guys. So let's just start with that. Let's start with the welcome. I think I do a lot of introduction on my friends who I have with me each week, and I don't know if I've given a lot of introduction to myself. So my name is Nathan Nordstrom. I'm a continuing education provider for a group called Educated Touch. It's myself, and we have two other instructors, Ben Glosson and David Otto, and we have other instructors who are trying to get classes together and working with stuff, really wanting to show interest in the education realm of continuing education. And so I'm there to help them out. So I've got that. I'm currently on the National Certification Board at this point right now, supporting them as a volunteer to really help the profession grow and improve. I've also been the AMTA National President in the past, and I've volunteered my whole entire professional career. I think volunteerism is a very important thing that really helps people grow in the field that they're specializing in. So that's a little bit about me. I've taught in massage school. I've run a massage school. I've taught continuing education. I've had a practice in 4 different states. I'm currently licensed in Oregon, Washington, Idaho, and the state of Georgia. I've been licensed in Illinois. I don't know all the laws across the country, but I do know a lot about how they work, and I've had a lot of connections with a lot of massage therapists across this great nation. And so I'm excited that I get opportunities to connect with massage therapists in different ways. And I'm currently the director of massage therapy training for a franchise company called Hand and Stone. So that's kind of me in a nutshell. So you know kind of where I'm going and where I'm coming from. I've held a massage therapy practice that's worked in clinical settings, that's worked in offices, that's done out-call, worked in a hospital a couple of times, worked in schools as a clinic supervisor. I've worked sports. I've worked at people's homes, so out-call. I've worked, I can't even put together any other places in my mind right now, but I believe I've done it all in some way, in some place. So I really do love this profession, and that's kind of the direction that I've gone when I keep pulling this all together. So so hopefully you don't think, oh, this guy's just pulling stuff out of his ear, because I mean I am, but I'm pulling it out of my ear because I've worked in the profession really long enough to understand that there's a lot going on here, and I've seen many things that have gone right and gone wrong. So all right, so I'm going to track us right back to where we end up going every week, and that's where we have our outline for the topic we're covering today. This is the National Certification Board of Therapeutic Massage and Body Workers website, ncbtmb.org. When you get to this page, you go scroll on down to the bottom, and you have the About section. Go down to Code of Ethics. And when you hit the Code of Ethics, you actually end up on the Code of Ethics page. It's interesting how that works. You click in what you're looking for, and you get it. There's another thing that I actually wanted to point out today, and that is this one right here. To review the Approved Provider Code of Ethics, click here. So some people don't know that in the National Certification Board of Therapeutic Massage and Body Workers, you can get your board certification to be a board certified massage therapist, but they have a requirement of continuing education that has a standard. And so to be an NCB approved continuing education provider, you have to meet a certain code of ethics as well. And so that code of ethics can be reached by clicking here. We're not talking about that today, but I just wanted to make sure that you knew it. If you're taking continuing education and you have a great class and you see that they're not NCB approved, you'll see that they're probably following this code of ethics, and that's kind of what pulls them together and really gives them that step above, is because they're working really hard to make sure that they're maintaining their ethical code, and they're following that ethical code because they want to see a quality of education out there that really helps people. So, all right, going back to today, we are at number 17. And now that we're a little bit into this, now we can actually talk about what number 17 is. Number 17 is refuse any gifts or benefits that are intended to influence a referral, discussion, decision, or treatment, or that are purely for personal gain and not for the good of the client. I'm going to try that again because I screwed that one up. Sorry, guys. Refuse any gift or benefit that are intended to influence a referral, decision, or treatment, or that are purely for personal gain and not for the good of the client. Oh, all right. So I always want to see what people think about what we just said, because in the standard world, we're looking at a couple of different things. If you are working in the insurance industry, if you are working as an insurance provider of massage therapy, there's a couple of different pieces here that I want to just quickly point out. So influence a referral. So when we start talking about clinical referrals from a doctor, if you are accepting gifts from a doctor so that you'll refer people to them, that's part of that. If you want to get really nitpicky, if you are working in a chiropractor's office for a discounted rate because he wants you to refer people to him, this could be considered part of that. So being conscious about favoritism and that concept of favoritism, where someone thinks they're getting a benefit or they're getting a gain, or especially a financial gain, because of something that's happening, that may or may not be the right person for that, and you may be operating outside of your code of ethics. So you may not be ethically informed to send people to the right place because you have this relationship with this specific provider. That's a dangerous spot. Now, going into decisions and treatments, I always like to look at this as the upselling clause. It's an ugly thing to say. I don't like it. But if you're looking at selling them a special foot scrub or selling them a scalp treatment because it helps your pocket, there's where the problem is. Now, if you have products that are available in your in your facility that you can use that have an added cost to them, and they're asking for something to help them with their headache, and you know that the special aromatherapy in that scalp massage really helps with headaches, then you're not making your decision or changing the treatment based off of your income. You're making it based off of their condition. And that's a huge variance. I usually see this a lot of times with special treatments or signature treatments for different places. So if they have their signature myofascial release treatment, or their signature hot stones treatment, or their signature, whatever their special treatment condition is, this is a barrier where we have to step back and say that signature treatment has a purpose. What is the therapeutic purpose that we're using it for? Because if you can answer that question, then you're not following into this problem of gifts and benefits. Or that the purpose for personal gain and not for the good of the client. If it is about you as a massage therapist, I was just talking to one of my friends, Dan, this week, and he brought up a statement that really shocked me, kind of slightly irritated me, but he pointed out that in no time in the past has he ever heard so many massage therapists say, "What's in it for me?" That's a dangerous statement. That's a scary statement to me, because as a massage therapist, are you only there for your gain, for your betterment? Because if you are, it's really hard to get out of yourself and give the best treatment for that therapist. If you're only in it for you, for your better good, you're never going to get out of it what you think. This is a massage therapist. Those massage therapists, those of us who this is our dream job, this is what we love doing. That's a scary, sad statement. We want to make sure that, yes, you make money. We want you to do well in business. And we want you to make sure that your ends are taken care of, your means are taken care of. But we also have to make sure that with those means being taken care of, that you've also taken care of that client. You're never going to be a great therapist if it's always there for you. Very similar, a doctor who works 10 to 15 hours a day and is overworked and is exhausted and not able to really do his best work isn't going to be the best doctor. But a doctor who takes care of himself and makes sure that he's taking care of the needs that he has, then can go into a treatment, go into his clinic and really give the best opportunity for his patients to get better. Massage therapists aren't any different. We need to make sure that we're taking care of ourselves. But in that taking care of ourselves, we need to make sure that when we are with that client, we're with that client for their better good. I hope that makes sense. I mean, it's something that seems natural. Now, I've seen a lot of young massage therapists who, when they come into massage therapy, they're yahoo gung-ho about being a massage therapist. And in that gung-ho nature, they think, oh, I'm going to be the best massage therapist there is, and I'm going to make this much money. Okay. You can be a successful massage therapist and make good money, but you only actually do that if you focus on the better purpose of the client. Once the client knows that you're there for them, they will refer, they will build your clientele, they will rebook, and they will want to help you and want to help themselves. The quote upselling concept or upselling clause becomes a null issue once you're focusing on what's the betterment of my client. How do I make sure that they are good? How do I make sure that they are healthy? How do I make sure that they're getting their best hour out of this, the best session out of this hour, or hour and a half, or whatever the session ends up being? Okay. So we have to go all the way back to tips. Gratuity. Tips and gratuity are two terms for, in our modern US culture, they're the same thing. However, if we go into history, they're not quite the same thing. Generally, the terminology for tips refers to ensure prompt service, TIPS. So that TIPS, or to ensure prompt service, would be more of a bribe. So it'd be more beforehand. It'd be more of that opportunity to go and, hey, I'm going to give you some money to make sure I get good service, to make sure I get the right table, make sure I get close to the stage. It's more money that you're giving under the table or in your palm to make sure that you're greasing their palm so you get the best possible service. Ancient times, that's what it was. A good example historically of tips was where if you took a $1 bill and you put it on the counter or on the bar stool or the bar, and they put a beer on it, and you would drink the beer or the root beer in my case or whatever else, and if you ever got down to the bottom, then that money was taken off the table. If they kept the glass full, then at the end of the day, you toss that over. So that would be a bribe or a potential bribe for the bartender to go, oh, I see I got some money possible here. Let's make sure to take care of that client, that patient, that person, that patron. In massage therapy, we go more of on the gratuity side. And gratuity is a demonstration that is not mandatory of gratitude for a service well given. Gratuity has a lot of different forms. I was talking to a massage therapist a couple of days ago, and it was a lot of fun because when we were talking about tips, one of the things that she said is, she says, you know, I don't get a lot of cash tips. I said, like credit card or cash? And she's like, oh, no. I get a lot of cookies baked for me. I get gift cards, gift certificates, things from clients who know that I like this or know that I like that, and or they really enjoy it, and so they want to introduce me to this concept, to this restaurant, or to this. And so a lot of her gratuity is more engaging in the cultural wellness and the cultural support of the community. Now, is that not also influencing the treatment of the therapist or the treatment of the client? Are you going to treat a client who tips you more or not? This is usually where I start bringing up the Hippocratic Oath. And so what a doctor follows. So why don't we tip our doctors? And whenever I ask this question in ethics class, it's notorious that someone will pull up the statement of, well, because we're paying them $100,000, $200,000 a year, so they don't need the money. Well, that actually goes against the concept of gratuity and tips. Because if you were in a life and death situation and the doctor saved your life, I'm pretty sure you'd be grateful. And that gratefulness is a really important aspect that we're thinking of. Actually, the doctor is not allowed, according to the Hippocratic Oath, to take gratuity. They're not supposed to have gratuity because it is more likely to change their reasoning for doing something different. For example, a doctor is not allowed to do a service, a greater service for a patient who's coming in and paying by insurance than a patient who's coming in and paying by cash. They need to operate on the same as a doctor on the same level. They're supposed to prescribe the same things and give the same relationship, a quality to every patient. Now, does that change Insurance companies don't have to follow the Hippocratic Oath, so they do have to follow HIPAA, but the Hippocratic Oath is a whole different game. So if we're looking at what the benefits are to having doctors who are looking at the Hippocratic Oath and following the Hippocratic Oath, it's that we have a system where everyone can be treated. I have a brother who, and my parents who used to live in Bulgaria, and I've heard several times about them being in Bulgaria and having to deal with the medical system over there. The Hippocratic Oath isn't a thing to them. You do have to pay before you go into the hospital. And so you could be very sick on your deathbed, but they don't have to see you because you can't pay. So why would we pay for you, or why would we give you service if you can't pay for the service? And that's alien to us in the United States and many other countries that have a more in-depth medical system that allows for more communal healthcare. This is going on the internet, so it's going on Facebook, it's going to all countries, and allowing massage therapists to look at it from every dynamic of different cultures. So if you're in New Zealand or Australia, massage therapy isn't really considered healthcare as much as it is here in the United States. If you're in Switzerland, massage therapy is considered a standard care of a therapeutic provider. So it's part of their healthcare system where it's not part of another. So the relationship and the expectation is going to change. You're going to really engage in a different way. As a massage therapist, you have the right to decide how you're going to build your practice. If you're going to act in a clinical way, if you're going to develop a clinical skill, and if you're going to present yourself as a clinician of specialty, you're then going to be responded to as a specialist. You're going to be responded to as a person who's following a Hippocratic oath or an oath of doing no harm and helping others, no matter what country you're in. Also, no matter what setting you're in. Guess I have to define that out a little bit too for you guys. I have always been considered a very clinical massage therapist. I've worked with conditions. I've helped people who were in the hospital. I've helped people who have pathologies that are more complex. And as a clinical massage therapist, I've worked actually in high-end resort spas. In Jackson, Wyoming, I was in the Rest Superior Lodge and Spa, the Body Sage Day Spa. I currently work with Hand and Stone, which is a spa. It's a franchise for spas. And I see massage therapists regularly coming into these places and they're like, hey, I'm really interested in the clinical aspect of massage therapy. And my answer is, congratulations, that's a great direction to be going. Make sure to hold true to the ethical standards that you have. Make sure to hold true to the better good with which you are doing, especially when we're looking at this Hippocratic Oath and we're looking at number 17 here, where you're saying refuse any gifts or benefits that are intended to influence a referral. Now, what are some of those things that are intended to influence the therapist? I mean, we say tips, but I don't think every tip is meant to influence the therapist's treatment of a person specifically. When we start looking at gratuity specifically, and we say, okay, so how did the industry really kind of get into this aspect? You know, there's a difference in massage therapy between the clinical side and the customer service or the service industry. Spas are generally considered the service industry, where you're serving clients to help them improve in relaxation and stabilization, in having a better relationship to life. Where if we're looking at the clinical conditions, you're looking at pathologies. And I'm realizing I'm pointing at a gnome. Sorry about that, guys. This is my garden, so that's kind of why I put it. It's springtime in Washington, so this is a lot of fun to kind of see all the flowers bloom. But that's another tip that a massage therapist could get is a client comes in and brings you flowers because they know you like your flowers, because you like this or you like that. So let me give you some examples of tips that may or may not have been intended to influence the therapist. Okay. When I worked many years ago in a spa, we had an esthetician doing facials in the spa. She was very nice, very great esthetician. And one of the things that people knew about her is that she was a single mom. She lived alone, and she always was there. She was full-time, I'd say full-time and then some. Kelly was just an outstanding person. And as that really beneficial person, she one day had her car break down. And so she was going to be late. Well, her first two clients on that day were a husband and wife. And the husband and wife liked her. They really liked her and really kind of connected with her and always came to her. And so when she finally got in, she apologized. She explained that her car broke down, but that she will get to their service and work on them first and get through the day. So she worked on them, and during the session, they talked. They had general kind communication and respect for each other. And so in the communication, she expressed that her car broke down, and it's going to be a little difficult because she has to figure out how to pick up her daughter and do these things. So by the end of the day, Kelly gets done with her session. She goes up to the front desk to collect any tips that have been left for her. And there was an envelope there. And in the envelope was car keys and the deed to a car that was sitting in the parking lot. That's a really big tip. And that's a really big thing to give to someone. And when we look at the ethics of giving and receiving, or the psychology of giving and receiving, there's also a subset concept of being indebted to a person who gives you a really big gift. She was floored. She had no clue what to do. And so she was shocked, first of all. She then read the note and realized who it was from, and she didn't quite know what to do. So she went down to the office and called the owner and said, "Hey, I need to let you know this is what happened. What do I do?" So I leave that to you first to kind of say, was she wrong to accept? If she accepted it, would she be wrong? If she didn't accept it, would she be wrong? So that's just the thought to run through your mind, because then when we start looking at the rest of the story, because I like to share more and get more into the story, because the story has some really important pieces to it. So what actually ended up happening is the owner actually said, we need to call these people and figure out if this is for real or what's going on, because it does feel kind of icky. Your gut starts going, wait a second, what should we do? And anytime that happens, that ethical dilemma should be inspiring you to ask more questions, to communicate. That communication helps filter out a lot of ethical dilemmas. So they actually called the husband and wife up, and they said, "Hey, the esthetician said, thank you so much for the offer. I don't know if I can accept it." And so when they actually started talking, they started looking at what was going on. And the husband and wife said, before you go too far, we need to tell you something. And so they got quiet and they said, we're financially well off. We're fine financially. And our only son is at college. And this is the car that we had for him to drive. And so he's off at college and he's failing his college classes. And we don't feel that it's appropriate for us to give him a gift and have it be his if he's not working to become the best person he possibly can. And we know that you are, and we want to give that gift to you because we really don't want it to be here when he comes home from college because he's failing out. So that added complexity to the situation. So when we look at dual relationships and the concept of dual relationships, this is that caregiver, care receiver, or parent-child relationship, or grandchild, grandparent, those types of things. And falling into that relationship, and then the countertransference of, as the therapist or as the esthetician in this case, falling into the relationship as, wow, they're really taking care of me, and kind of relying on them for that type of care, that becomes a larger challenge. Because there starts to become a concept of favoritism or expectation of favoritism. Would you treat your parents different than you would a stranger who walks in off the street? As a therapist, it's impossible to break out that relationship. If you have a good relationship or a bad relationship with your parents, it's still impossible to break out that relationship. So if you can separate yourself in different ways to the relationship and make sure that that relationship is safe, that's going to be a really important thing. So go back to this story. She actually did accept the car and said that how grateful she was. But she also wanted to make sure that there wasn't any other expectation with it. She knew that she was going to be indebted to them and be very grateful to them, but she wanted to make sure that they didn't have alternative expectations of getting favoritism, calling up and saying, hey, I need a facial at 3 a.m, or we know you work at the spa, but we want you to come over to our house. They wanted to make sure that it was a true charitable gift and that there was no other relationship or expectation with it. It was done very well. It was really helpful for that conversation to happen because it made sure that everyone was on the same page and everyone was comfortable. Now let's go to the other side of gifts, because gifts can then go into this problematic side just as much as it can go into that helpful side. A young female massage therapist, she got this story when she was in our fully exposed ethical dilemmas class. This young massage therapist had a client who was coming in and was being very, very kind. He was a young man. He was sharing information that was a little bit more than what you usually share with a massage therapist about the condition, more talking about his own personal relationships and that type of thing. And so that kind of made for things to be a little uncomfortable at times, but it really didn't strike a chord to her. Well, one day, as he started coming in a little more often and talking, more friendly, more connected, he brought in a teddy bear with him and said, oh, my nephew, I got this for him, he didn't want it. I know that you like teddy bears. Everybody likes teddy bears, so I just wanted to give you this. It's just a gift. It doesn't mean anything. She felt uncomfortable about it. She didn't quite know how to go about talking about it, so she tried not to talk about it and just kind of said, oh, okay, well, thank you. And so she put it in the corner of the treatment room and ignored it, and then gave it away several days after. And that was, to her, done. That's nothing we're going to talk about. It's just an awkward moment, and it's now in the past. Well, a couple of sessions later, he actually comes to his massage session, and he brings her some silk roses. They're all wound up on a stem. And he says, "Oh, I know you really like flowers. These were just really cute, and so I thought I'd get you some. And you can just, they're silk. They can go in the corner. They can brighten up the room." And once again, she got that icky feeling of something's not right here. He's not saying something. And most people can recognize when something is being presented but not addressed, when something is being given but not talked about, that hiding feeling of a lack of full communication. So she continued with the massage as a professional, and made sure that she wasn't doing anything inappropriate or engaging. She got a little bit more focused on her communication to the treatment of his lower back pain instead of other stuff, and so made sure that that was connected. Well, as he left, the next client came in, and she got completely uncomfortable. And the therapist said, "Well, what was wrong?" She says, "How come you have silk underpants wadded up like roses in your corner?" Yeah, those little roses were actually underwear that were rolled up to look like flowers. She was mortified. She was taken back. She was like, "Oh my gosh, I cannot see this person ever again. This is really awkward." She took them and threw them out. She was taken back because this gift was intended to say something, and she wasn't getting it. However, it was intended to change the relationship. And when we talk about refuse any gift or benefits that are intended to influence a referral, decision, or treatment, or that are purely for personal gain and not for the good of the client. Now, what are we talking about for the good of the client? In this case, the client thinks it's his good, but it's not. It's for a relationship. Now, are all relationships bad? Obviously not. I've been married for many years now. But if we go back in the Code of Ethics, we talk about not having a sexual relationship with your clients. And what that actually means is that actually having sex with your clients, or alluding to sex, or connecting in a communication towards sex. A lot of those things, even flirtation, is considered a sexual communication. So how you carry yourself as a massage therapist is going to say an awful lot. Now, this gift really took her back. And next time the client called in to get a massage, she said, "I'm sorry, I'm not going to see you anymore." And when he asked for reasons why, she just said, I just can't see you anymore. My schedule's too full. I'm sorry. Click. I don't think that's the best response as well, because ethically, that client was interested in her as a person. And for her to say, "You know what, I do not date my clients. I understand that you're interested. I'm not interested. And I noticed that the last gift that you received crossed some boundaries for me and made me feel uncomfortable." That would have helped a lot in giving him some understanding and really building the relationship to a healthy form, even as they part. Anytime you can address a concern or a communication issue, especially when it comes to gifts, that's going to help out an awful lot. So, what is your dollar figure for an inappropriate gift? Is that dollar figure of a $20 tip, is that a point where you start getting an ethical dilemma? Or is that normal? And you're like, "Oh, $20 gift. They really appreciated it. That's fine." Is it a $40 gift? Is it a $40 tip? Is it a $60 tip? Is it 100% of the cost of the service? Is it 200% of the cost of the service? Is it an item instead of a dollar figure? I've said this several times. When I worked at a spa one time, we got tips that were over 100% of the cost of the service. And when we went into the session, knowing that the session was last minute booked. It was a spa that usually didn't have therapists on that late, and it was a couple, a husband and wife, and they had just flown in, and they're like, oh, do you guys just have massage therapists around? Because we'd really like a massage. We'll really make it worth their while. We just really need to get rid of the stress from this horrible flight that we just had. And going into it, they said, well, we're going to tip you 100% because we really want to make sure that you're taken care of. You're staying late for us. We just appreciate that. Now, that took care of the preemptive ethical dilemma of what is the purpose of this gratuity. If nothing was said, it could have gotten uncomfortable. If there was an expectation or a lack of communication, that can make things extremely uncomfortable. So how do we make sure that in our field, because in the massage therapy industry, there isn't one standard. There's actually two standards. And when you're looking at how you practice as a massage therapist, what standard are you following, and with which balance are you making that standard? As I said, I've worked in all sorts of settings. I worked in a chiropractic office, and we had signs for a period of time that said, we do not accept gratuity. Thank you so much for offering, but we follow the Hippocratic Oath, and we know that we want to make sure that you are taken care of without any expectation of gratuity. However, once in a while, you'd get that client, that patient who would come in and would offer you a gratuity, and you're like, no thanks, we're taken care of financially. We make sure that the business expenses are taken care of and that I'm paid amply. And then you get the client who's offended. I've had a client who said, I will be offended if you do not take this tip. Now, is it still for the client's better good to take the money and put it in their hand and say, I will not take this. You will not challenge my Hippocratic Oath. I do not take these tips. That is evil and horrible for a massage therapist to do that. Is that going to be for the better good of a massage therapist and for their patient? It's not. So there's several ways around that. There's several things that I've seen really amazing massage therapists do. One massage therapist, you know what? I don't even remember who this was. This was years ago. One massage therapist said, if you would like to tip me, there's a jar right here, and all of the funds that go into this jar go to the Massage Therapy Foundation for research in massage therapy. And I really love being able to contribute to them so that they can really support massage therapy as an industry and give us some better research. Another person had any tips that they received actually went to their continuing education fund. And so they always kind of put that money aside as the year went along so that they could have the right money there and available so that they could take a higher quality continuing education to make their service better so that they can treat their clients or patients better as they're coming in. The massage therapy industry hasn't created a one single standard. And so those are both examples of ways that massage therapists who want to be somewhere in the middle of these two and feel comfortable and safe can sit. there's a huge array of gray in here. But I think the challenge is when a massage therapist doesn't set a standard, and then they rock back and forth between the two, and they just don't know if they should or should not at this time in this place, but they want to, but they don't, but they don't, but they do, but they, and then they start just swaying and not really having a standard. So creating your standard, your stance of what's going to be appropriate for you, that's a huge piece. That's a very important structure to look at, because I'm going to say this, but then I'm probably going to regret it. It's not about you, and it's not about your client. It's about you and your client. Okay? How you treat your own profession and how you treat yourself as a therapist is important. And how you treat your clients and your clients treat you is important. How the clients treat themselves and respect themselves is important. These are all the relationships in a two-person relationship. How you treat yourself, how you treat them, how they treat themselves, and how they treat you. Those are all relationships that will change the dynamic between two people. So as a massage therapist, and you're looking at this dynamic between these different relationships, if a massage therapist is underpaying themselves, if they're started their own business and they have their practice and they're excited about having a practice and they're barely making ends meet and taking home $100 a month after the expenses are paid. First of all, that's small business notorious. It does happen regularly. I know several massage therapists who are on the borderline of poverty regularly because they work so hard and they have expenses and they're just not able to take care of all of that. That's a business challenge. But it's also a respect issue towards yourself. If you're not a businessman, businesswoman, and you're trying to make your own practice work, you need help. You do. I've done it. I've been there. I've needed help. So sometimes that's hiring the right person out to do things that you're not qualified to. Sometimes that's putting yourself in the background and saying, okay, so do I need to do more have more massage sessions per day and make sure that the other expenses are taken care of? Do I need to work in marketing and advertising myself to get more clients to come in? Do I need to, what are those aspects in a self-employed business? Now, going the other direction, you have massage therapists who are working for franchise groups, and they don't have the business expenses. They don't have to pay rent. They don't have to pay for their continuing education. They don't have to pay for a receptionist. They don't have to pay for the phones. They don't have to pay for the electricity. They don't have to pay for all these different things. And so they're coming in and they're saying, hey, I'm making this money. I'm being paid over minimum wage by quite a bit, and I'm comfortable with my living. However, they only then work 15 sessions a week. If you don't have the other activities that are being paid out, then as a business mind, we have to think about what it is that you're doing to make sure that you're being taken care of. Because if you're not taking care of those things, this ethical dilemma, this ethical standard, this code is going to be the most important thing to you, because you're more likely to fall into that problem. You're going to fall into that trap of not having enough and wanting. And if someone's willing to give it to you, should you have it, first of all? Should be willing to take it if it's wrong. I was a clinic supervisor in massage therapy school for several years, and I loved the job. It was a lot of fun to really kind of connect with massage students before they actually get into some of these ethical dilemmas. And there was actually two things that I really liked to do to massage students. Most people would call it mean and cruel, but I called it a cell phone. No, I called it training. So the first one was if a client came in and they had something that was contraindicated to massage. They couldn't receive a massage that day. I had so many examples. Some were they just got out of surgery. Some they had unmedicated high blood pressure. So, I mean, many things that a person might say, you know, if I just get a massage, it'll help me feel better. But they were contraindicated according to the standards of the school and according to the standards of massage therapy and for the service of massage therapy. And so I would make the students go and tell them and express to them why they couldn't get a massage today. Some of them really needed a support system, so I would be right behind them. But I always tried to get them to do it, because when you're in clinic, you're not being paid for that session. Now, it is part of your grade, and actually I made sure to give ample credit for actually being able to do that. But the key pieces are, if you're now 6 months into practice and you're trying to build your practice and try to get every client in the door that you possibly can, and you come across someone who should not receive massage because it's not going to be for their better good, and you're in need financially to have that client, you now have that internal battle that should win for the better good of the client. And if you didn't get that experience in class, in school, then it's going to be harder to push that client away and say, you know what, come back when you are healthy and I'm able to work on you. Here's my concern, and here's what needs to happen so that we can make sure that you're ready to receive the best massage possible. Now, the other one that I like to do is even closer to this, and that is in massage school in the state that I was at, and that was the state of Oregon. It was illegal for clients in the student clinic to give gratuity or tips to the massage therapy students. And actually, that's in most of the states. It's illegal for a student massage therapist to receive gratuity because they're not licensed as a massage therapist yet, and they shouldn't be receiving any financial benefit for the services they provide as a student. Most states, I don't know about all of them, but most of the ones I've looked at have said that. So when a massage student is coming out of their treatment room and they're like, woohoo, he dropped $5 in his sheets, or oh man, Mr. Jones or Mr. Thompson, when he was leaving, he gave me this tip. I would have them do one of two things. Now, I've done this at several schools. One school created the policy that you actually had to put it into their notes and give it back to them that next session. Yeah, I'm that guy. If you, as the student, are able and willing to follow up and give that money back and say, thank you so much. This means a lot to me. However, if you could hold on to that, and when I'm licensed, save up the tips and then give me, come pay for your first session with that gratuity, that would be great. Or the easy statement is, I'm sorry, it's illegal for me to receive gratuity as a student massage therapist. Please hold on to this and keep it and use it for something that's going to make you better. It might be more relaxation, more stretching, more tools, more whatever it is to keep you healthy, yoga class or whatever else. Going the other direction, when I moved into a school that was open and started working there, their policy was any tips that came in, the student couldn't keep. They put it into one envelope, and at the end of the quarter, they used it as a pizza party fund. There's an ethical gray there for the school and for the therapist, because they're getting a benefit of those those tips that came in, but it kind of dissolves some of the direct person-to-person expectation. So those are some of the key pieces that we look at when we're talking about tips and gratuity. It's not all. So down below at the end of when you get done watching this, or while you're watching it, type in your own ethical dilemmas, the things that tips bring to you, and the challenges or blessings that you get for them. So once again, this is the National Certification Board of Therapeutic Massage and Body Workers Code of Ethics number 17. Refuse any gifts or benefits that are intended to influence a referral, decision, or treatment, or that are purely for personal gain and not for the good of the client. Thank you for being here with me today. I appreciate your time and your connection. Once again, as we've said, if you have any stories, any ethical dilemmas, anything that you want to discuss, my email is Nathan, Nathan, at educatedtouch.com, educatedtouch.com. And we'd love to use your stories. We're always looking for guest lectures. We're going to actually have a special guest next week. I'm getting ready to put up the advertisements for next week's class, but it's going to be a fun one. It's someone that I really respect, and I'm just going to leave it there. So thank you once again. I also want to thank a couple of people who really support me, and I will know if they respond to this. But David Otto is always an amazing support, and has always worked to support Educated Touch, and really support me as a friend, as well as the Underground Foundation, which we're just not going to talk about today. Colette Wilson, outstanding support, has been a friend for a long time, and is an outstanding person, and has always put herself out there professionally, ethically, and really is a strong individual. And I know she watches these regularly, so thank you to her. My community at AMTA, who's really supported me as I was volunteering there for 15 years, the National Certification Board themselves, the board, and all of you who aren't board certified. You guys really hold true to a higher standard, and so thank you for being board certified and for keeping that expectation of quality massage therapy. I also want to thank my employer, Hand & Stone. The company has really supported me in kind of holding to this standard and drawing the profession up as a career, and I want to see the franchise world really grow as massage therapy improves and grows and sees that highest quality. I'd also like to thank the gnome on my left shoulder. He's not cracked one smile the entire time, and it's really helped.
Thank you, Nathan. The hour has flown by. We hope you've enjoyed this discussion with Ethics Outside the Box. As you've seen, Nathan uses many second-hand stories of ethical situations. If you'd like to share your story, or you have any questions, feel free to contact him and Nathan at educatedtouch.com. If you'd like to register for next week's live webinar, go to shop.educatedtouch.com. Under live webinars, you will see all upcoming webinars. If you have just watched this video and would like continuing education for home study, you can go to shop.educatedtouch.com under the home study options with the date or episode number to receive your exam. If you would please like this video and subscribe to our YouTube channel, we will keep you up to date on new videos. If you'd like to attend one of our live courses, you can find upcoming scheduled events at www.educatedtouch.com. Thank you for joining us today.